Welcome to the Solo Edit Podcast, a podcast for estheticians looking for a weekly dose of motivation, inspiration, and honest conversations about life in and out of the treatment room. About 3 years ago now, I wrote a blog that was about strategies for success for solo estheticians, and it gained some traction. We definitely got a lot of great feedback, and it was basically just about how I was able to build a nearly fully booked six-figure aesthetic business. I shared what worked for me, how I networked, how I treated my clients like gold, and a lot of other just like little details that really made my business stand out. But a lot has happened since then, and I thought it might be interesting to kind of reflect on my thought process back then, what worked, and what is still applicable now in 2026, and what has really shifted in the industry that we may want to consider in the future. So that's what we are doing today. As I mentioned, this blog I wrote about 3 years ago, and since then I sold my spa. I've gone full-time into By Kin, where we just bring in Korean skincare for estheticians across the US. And I've really watched the industry shift in ways that I did not anticipate. I have learned even more about what it actually takes to build something sustainable in this profession. And I've learned even more about what it actually takes to build something meaningful and sustainable in this industry. And so obviously I want to share it with you. So as I kind of read back that blog, which I did about a week ago, and just revisiting that post, I realized that I wouldn't necessarily rewrite it per se, but I definitely think that it was worth updating. So if you're just starting out or you are trying to get new clients, I hope that you find today's podcast helpful. Okay, so what exactly has changed in the last 3 years? I definitely think that the world feels heavier right now. I imagine I can't be the only one that feels this way. Many are feeling the economic uncertainty. We're facing burnout, and also, let's be real, just like this relentless pressure of like showing up and being on social media, and this idea that we have to compete and be better. Not to mention, TikTok shopping has really taken off, and there are so many influencers now that are just, selling skincare routines that really undermine our professional training. So that being said, when I look back over the last 3 years, I've realized that the fundamentals are still there and they still matter. In 2022, I was saying networking was the key to my success. That definitely has not changed, but if anything, it has definitely become even more critical. What I understand now that I didn't really fully appreciate then is that networking isn't just about getting new clients or getting business. It's really about insulating your business when times are tough. When our economy fluctuates and when, social media reach kind of drops and when things happen that are outside of our control, our network is really what holds us up. And the relationships that we've built with other small business owners, the referrals that come from genuine connection, and the community we've invested in, that is what is going to keep us steady. I've also really thought about how networking kind of works in two different directions. You have the outward with other businesses, and then you have inward with your clients. When I talk about outward networking, I'm talking about this symbiotic relationship that I definitely talked about 3 years ago, where we're just connecting with local gyms, florists, boutiques, coffee shops. But now I think that I would add in, you don't just have to think about who can send you clients. You should think about who can weather these storms with you. So think about who shares your same values, who is committed to their community. Those are the partnerships that will last. And then you have inward with your clients. So your clients aren't just appointments on your schedule. These are, people navigating the same chaotic world that you are. The more that you can create genuine connection with them, not just, great service, but real human interaction, the more loyal they'll be when their budgets tighten or, a competitor shows up down the street. The bottom line of what I'm trying to say is that in this uncertain world, or what feels uncertain, our network is going to be our safety net. So invest in your business like it depends on it, because it really, really does. 3 years ago, I also talked about treating every client like gold. And this sentiment remains the same, but it means something a little bit different now. And what I would add is just to really amplify the fact that people are craving connection now more than ever. And I know it might not seem that way because we're glued to our phones, but when we're on our phones, most of the time it's doom scrolling. We're isolating ourselves. We have digital overload. Our clients are coming to us not just for better skin, but they're coming to us for a break from that noise and this desire of wanting to feel seen. They want to feel valued. They want to disconnect from the outside world and really be able to reconnect with themselves. If you can offer that, if you can create a space where they feel cared for, where they feel heard, and they are able to be present, you're not just providing a service, you're giving them something that they can't get anywhere else. So with that being said, this doesn't mean you need to be their therapist or their best friend. It just means that you need to show up, make sure you dedicate that hour, or for however long that service is, you dedicate it to the client and that client alone. Remembering those details about their life, asking thoughtful questions, and creating an experience that feels personal, not transactional, that is really going to be key. I also shared my views on tips, and I am happy to see that we're starting to see a change in our tipping culture, and I will stand by my no tipping policy views for our industry. I know when I shared before, I got some hate. I had some people that were in agreement, but I really think that we need to think about tipping culture and think about how we can take that burden away from our clients and roll that cost into the service to take away that uncomfortability that can sometimes come with tipping. You definitely don't have to agree with me. It's just something that really worked and helped transform my business when I was in the treatment room. I always had the sign. In fact, as a memento, I still have it. It said gratitude over gratuity. If you enjoyed your service, please consider leaving a Google review. Your Google presence is how a majority of your clients are going to find you and how most will decide if your business is even worth visiting based on the experiences of others. So it's not Instagram, it's not TikTok, but it's Google. When someone searches for a spa in the area, your review count and your score will determine whether you show up. And it's those reviews that really build trust before the client ever has any contact with you. They're social proof that you are legitimate, you're skilled, and you are worth their time and money. Another thing that I discussed in this previous blog was this discount trap. And I still do not believe discounts are worth it. And I am the first to admit that in the very beginning of my aesthetic career, I definitely discounted because I was so desperate to have clients and wanted to be successful. But I promise you, I really paid for it with difficult clients, those that, didn't respect my boundaries, which led to a lot of exhaustion and burnout. So, 3 years later, I say this even more strongly, discounting is not the answer to a slow season. I know it's tempting, especially when you're seeing other estheticians run promotions or when you're worried about staying booked or when the economy feels a little shaky, but discounting will, I promise you, attract those wrong clients, and those wrong clients will just drain you emotionally, financially, and of course, energetically. Your ideal client doesn't need a discount to see your value. So instead of dropping your prices, you need to double down on your niche. Get clearer with your brand and strengthen your customer service. Continue to build that network. Those strategies take more effort up front, but they will create long-term stability. If you are a little bit scared to cut out services, if you're not really feeling like you can say no to some services because you don't want to cut out customers or you're worried that you are going to lose money, I really recommend checking out a blog I recently wrote called The Unlearning Series. This is where I just talk about how more clients doesn't necessarily mean more money or success. I still also think retail matters. Back when I said retail should account for 50% of your income, I meant it, and I still believe that. One thing I would emphasize now is that retail is how you serve your clients between appointments, and I don't really think I made that clear in the past. With TikTok influencers really pushing skincare nowadays and clients taking advice from strangers on the internet, it's really easy to feel like you're competing with the entire world, but you do definitely have an advantage. You actually know your client's skin. You've seen it, you've touched it, you've treated it, you know what works for them, and you've gone to school. When you recommend home care, you're not, I promise you, even though it feels like it can be salesy, you're not being salesy. You are the professional. You are giving them advice. You are giving them tools to maintain the results. You're protecting their investment in the work that you both have done together. And honestly, if you are not recommending retail, you are doing them a huge disservice because 80% of the results come from what they do at home, and you're the one who can guide them through that. Again, if retail feels scary, I did also write a recent blog about how to sell more retail in an authentic way, so definitely check that out. I know I talked a little bit about niching earlier, but I want to just say that I do believe that niching down is even more important now than it was before. Niching really allows you to differentiate yourself, charge more, and ultimately become more desirable. For me, niching has definitely been key to what I have done throughout my entire career when I was an esthetician to now. And look, there are more estheticians than ever, and more spas, med spas are popping up, more people that are offering luxury facials and even Korean treatments. So you have to ask yourself, how can I differentiate myself and what I'm doing? And the answer is you have to get specific. You have to go deep on one thing instead of trying to do everything and build a brand that feels intentional, cohesive, and really unmistakably yours. For me, it was ditching lash extensions and waxing. I didn't enjoy either of those. And really focusing on Korean skincare. For you, it might be something else. Maybe you are interested in becoming an acne specialist or working with those who have mature skin or like a specialized facial massage. The point is whatever lights you up is what you should go for because that is one way to help mitigate any sort of burnout. So just to recap on the niching, when you niche, you are not limiting yourself. You are just clarifying who you're for, and that clarity will really make everything else kind of easier. Your marketing, your pricing, your clientele, your fulfillment, everything. The point I'm trying to make is that when you niche, you're not limiting yourself. You're just clarifying who you're for. And that clarity will make everything a lot easier. Your marketing, your pricing, your clientele, all of it. If I could go back and talk to the version of me who wrote that first post in 2022, here is what I would say to her. You're right about the fundamentals. Keep doing them. Networking, customer service, reviews, all of those things still matter, and to not second guess them. But also understand it's going to get harder before it gets easier, and that's okay. That's just part of entrepreneurship. The economy is always going to shift. Our industry is forever changing. There will always be new pressures that we did not anticipate. And again, that is just part of the journey. It's important that you know that the relationships you're investing in right now with other business owners and with your clients and your community, those are what's going to be able to carry you through these seasons that you're not able to predict. So don't underestimate that. And lastly, you don't have to keep up with everyone else. You don't have to post on Instagram every day. You don't have to offer the same treatments. You don't have to grow faster and bigger and be louder. One book that I absolutely love that kind of changed my idea of like what type of business I wanted was called Small Giants. And it's just about being great instead of huge. So if you are looking for a new book to read, I'd highly recommend that one. In closing, I just want to say this. Network like your business depends on it because it does. Treat your clients like they're humans, because they are. They're not just appointments. Do not discount your worth. Sell retail as an extension of your care. Niche down and own what makes you different. This world is so chaotic right now, but that doesn't mean that your business has to be. Stay grounded and stay strategic, and just remember that you are not in this alone. Thank you so much for joining me today. See you next week, same time, same place.